Prince Harry was interviewed by Oprah in their new mental health documentary, The Me You Can't See. What did his body language reveal about his inner struggle? Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language episodes. Let's get down to it. We have a front row to Harry's body language speaking about how he has managed emotions since his mother's passing. And as usual, we should pay attention to the body first, then to the facial expressions, and finally to his voice tone. The easiest body language clue that you'll first notice is the way he interlocks his fingers. It's a gesture that signals inner conflict. The pressure between his fingers liberates stress. At the same time, he uses that as a shield or a protective gesture, as in all protective gestures, the closer they are to the face, the more tense the person is. In any body language analysis, you should treat any gesture or signal as part of a system, and in this case, he's also showing tension with his jaw. So those first 6 seconds of our observation instantly tell us that he's not comfortable, that he's tense and defensive. Now let's contrast this first impression with another very interesting clip and notice not only his body language, but also what he says at that moment.
As opposed to Prince Harry just being Harry, as opposed to Prince Harry just being Harry.
It's easy to see that he's way more relaxed at this point. But why? What are the signals? Well, his neck is relaxed because his head is tilting to one side. His shoulders and general posture is absolutely free of tension too. He only has a subtle defensive gesture showing the back of his left hand. What is he saying? Not being Prince Harry, but just Harry. And upon saying that, you can see his eyebrows raise. As meaning he's looking for empathy, that this topic of becoming just Harry is important to him. And he shows that he's glad about it because he shows total delight right as he pronounced those words. Now let's see Harry's body language when he's talking specifically about mental health. What can you spot?
With stigma and everything else that's attached to it, mental health kind of gets left behind when it comes to stigma around mental health. I may be the product of my upbringing.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a verbal clue here. It seems that Harry has a strong relation between mental health and stigma. When he mentions being product of his upbringing, he was talking about no one around him addressing mental health as a serious concern. So the fact that this concept was never talked about with family or friends is something that still bothers him. And those subtle mouth-touching gestures signal nervousness. Again, he's not comfortable addressing the fact that he has struggled with mental health, and much less that there has been always this stigma, both in family and friends, to look for help. But besides contrast in body language attitudes, there's also contradictions that could be verbal or non-verbal. In this case, there's something odd with his recollections about when he first looked for help.
When did you start therapy?
4 years ago now.
4 years ago, that will be in 2017, more or less about the time when he and Meghan got engaged. And by the way, he claims that Meghan was the reason to start therapy.
I saw GPs, I saw doctors, I saw therapists, but it was meeting and being with Meghan.
Now he's being truthful here. His voice tone is stable, he uses hand gestures in sync with his words, and uses subtle head nods to emphasize the role of Meghan in his life and in his healing process. And that body language goes even further. Notice how his voice cracks when he talks about the possibility of losing Meghan for not taking action on his own mental health.
I knew that if I didn't do the therapy and fix myself, that I was going to lose this woman who I could see spending the rest of my life with.
So previously we confirmed that he was being truthful about the role of Meghan in his life, and now he's visibly worried about the possibility of losing Meghan at that time. As you can see, those are signals that keep stacking to better understand someone's true feelings. And voice tone is a very important clue, in this case supported by the fact that he shows rapid blinking too. Those are at least 2 signals that send the same message. Alright, Meghan was the catalyst for him to commit to therapy, and that's great. A lot of times we know we have to do something but don't have a strong reason why. Meghan was his why. But he said that he saw doctors and therapists before. Who suggested that he should look for help in the first place?
Okay, so what made you think you needed it?
The past, to heal myself from the past.
Well, that's a vague answer. You know what? He gave a much more concrete answer 4 years ago in a 2017 podcast with Bryony Gordon.
And it was only 3 years ago, funny enough, from the support around and my brother and other people saying that you really need to deal with this. It's not normal to think that.
So this was in 2017. Then, 3 years prior, that would make it 2014, before meeting Megan, that for the first time that his brother and other people suggested that he should look for help. Funny enough, Oprah insisted and repeated the question. Was there any event or someone that suggested you should look for professional help? And this was his answer.
So was there a single moment that forced you to say, I need help?
No, it was only when a couple of people close to me started to say, perhaps this isn't normal behavior. Perhaps you should, look into this, or perhaps you should go and seek help.
This time there's no mention of William. Why is that? And the other person that he's mentioning, it must be Kate. If you saw my video breakdown of Harry and Kate's relationship, you remember that Kate was instrumental in helping him in those hard times after he had to leave the military. Again, why wouldn't he mention her at that time or now? Well, maybe someone would not like him mentioning her. But the following statement from Harry is much more concerning. Pay attention to his facial expressions.
Because to be honest with you, like a lot of other people my age could probably relate to, I know that I'm not going to get from my family what I need. I know that I'm not going to get from my family what I need.
That's a very stark statement, and there are a few signals that tell us that he's absolutely sure of what he's saying. He uses his hand gestures to reach out and raises his eyebrows. He's looking for empathy. It's like saying, I need you to hear this loud and clear. He swallows hard before saying it and immediately after. That's something not easy for him to say, but he's proud of saying it and he stands behind his words because at the end he raises his chin defiantly. And you'd agree with me that this is a very rare gesture in Harry, being proud of saying something. I mentioned contradictions as a very important part of any body language analysis, and most of the time those contradictions do not mean that the person is lying, but instead they have an internal struggle. This is the most common scenario of a contradiction. For example, we already know that Harry was absolutely sure his family was not going to give him what he needed. And of course, when he says my family, he's including his brother and his grandmother too. So that's why I say it's a very strong statement. But at the same time, he says things like this.
I feel as though I'm outside of the system, but I'm still stuck there.
He's talking about how much he shares with his mother, about that feeling of no matter how he distances himself from what reminds him about that tragedy, he still feels stuck in a force field that will be pulling him no matter what. We all process emotions differently, and of course Harry had to live that traumatizing event with no awareness that there could be a possibility that he will have the hardest time overcoming it. And this is where I absolutely and completely understand how he has the concept of mental health intertwined with stigma. Every one of us has demons to fight. We all have different armies of demons, and not every one of us has the right emotional tools to handle and control them. Then some people will have an easier time fighting one of them, some will have a harder time fighting others, but the problem is when vulnerability is frowned upon. And it's amazing how we can have a plumbing problem in our home and immediately call on a specialist because it's obvious, there's water everywhere. But with mental struggles it's not so easy because it's not that obvious. You feel that there's something wrong but either can't describe it or are ashamed of showing weakness to the world. There's another interesting clip when Harry's talking about the attack on Meghan from the media and he asks his family for help.
I thought my family would help, but every single ask, request just got met with total silence or total neglect.
As he says the words Total silence or total neglect again, talking about his family when he wanted help with how the media was treating Meghan. He displays covert anger and just a split second of sadness. So far, his expressions are in sync with what he's saying, and he's really angry at the fact that he did not feel supported at all by his family. Now, this would require a deeper investigation, but to put it in perspective, between May 2019 and April 2020, there were almost 250,000 articles written worldwide about Meghan and only 75,000 on Prince Andrew on that same period. And you remember how easy it is for him to make headlines. Anyway, I think Harry still has a lot to heal, but he seems to be in the right track. Beyond everything that the media or myself could say about his relationship with Meghan Markle, mental health is a very serious issue. But I have proof that even the harshest experiences, like losing your mother at a young age, can bring you real clarity, especially as a father. Listen to Harry's words about what Charles told him.
Because my father used to say to me when I was younger, well, it was like that for me, so it's going to be like that for you. That doesn't make sense. Just because you suffered, that doesn't mean that your kids have to suffer. In fact, quite the opposite. Do everything you can to make sure that whatever negative experiences that you had, that you can make it right for your kids.
To have a better understanding of Harry's situation, I suggest that you watch my breakdown of his relationship with Meghan and also how Kate was an influence in his life. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss any of my body language analysis and tips.